Good morning. I will now call to order the meeting of the Board of Lane County Commissioners for Tuesday, June 11th. Welcome to everyone here in Harris Hall and anyone who might be joining us online. Welcome Mr. Rickoff, who is sitting in for County Administrator, our Assistant County Administrator, but Steve Mokreisky will be with us later this morning, I understand. So thank you for pinch hitting and welcome. First up, are there any adjustments to the agenda from County Administration?
It is my understanding that one item will get pulled from the consent calendar.
Yes, I have that.
All right, but other than that, no other adjustments.
Great. I do have one item at staff request just for a little explanation to pull from consent calendar. It should be fairly routine regardless. Anything else from the board? No, then we will please pull item A2 on the consent calendar. So under County Administration, that's order 2406-1101. It's a contract amendment, and we will just have either Mr. Holmes or someone from County Council just explain to us there was a minor adjustment that came a little too late to get into our packet in time. It's quite routine still, but thought best to just pull it from consent calendar so they can explain that. Any emergency business? Seeing none. We will move into County Administration. We have one brief item before us before we do public comment this morning, and this is a public hearing and work session on the fiscal year 24-25 budget adoption, and I'll welcome Christine Moody, our Budget and Financial Planning Manager, to the table for this item, and I will pull up my script. Great. So first we will have a summary from the staff, then we will open the hearing on the budget adoption. Good morning, Ms. Moody.
Thank you, Chair Trieger, Commissioners. So this is the required public hearing on the budget that was approved by the Budget Committee on May 22nd. So in your packet, you see a summary of the two changes that were made to the proposed budget. And so this is a conversation about any of that that's in the proposed or the changes that resulted in the approved budget. And then we'll talk a little more about the work session part, but really want to keep the public hearing just on that piece first.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And so with that, I will note this is a public hearing to discuss the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024, as approved by the Lane County Budget Committee on May 22nd, 2024. This public hearing is required to be held prior to final budget adoption under ORS 294.453. Notice of this hearing and summary of the changes was published as required by ORS 294.438 and detailed in the public hearing board agenda item. Participants may testify for or against any item contained in the approved budget. And so with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. Cameron, did we have a separate sign-in sheet and simply no one signed in for the? Thank you. I will open the public hearing on the budget. And since there is no one in Harris Hall wishing to speak to this item, I'll ask Judy if anyone has signed up online to give public testimony on the budget.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, if you would like to give public comment for the public hearing to discuss the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024, as approved by the Lane County Budget Committee on May 22nd, 2024, please raise your virtual hand at this time. Seeing no hands raised, I will turn the meeting back over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Judy. Then I will close the public hearing on the budget. Are there any additional comments from staff at this time?
No additional comments. Thank you.
All right. Then we will move to the work session, and the board can discuss any of the changes that they may desire be made prior to budget adoption at our next regular meeting of June 25, 2024. To the board. Seeing none. That will conclude this item. Thank you very much for being here this morning, Ms. Moody. Appreciate it. And no vote or action is required at this time. See you in a couple of weeks. Then with that, we will move into our public comment section of the meeting. We will take speakers in the order in which they signed up. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes per person. We will begin with anyone present in Harris Hall who signed up to speak. I'll then turn it over to Judy to see if there's anyone online, and then we'll come back to the hall to see if anyone arrived after we handed in the sign-up sheet to see if someone wishes to address the board this morning. I will call people in the order they signed up and ask when I call your name that you please step to the podium, speak into the microphone. You will have 3 minutes and a clock on the wall. If we could get that up, please, Judy. Your time will begin when you state your name for the record. Just wait to get the clock up, and first up this morning will be Jenny Jonak, and she will be followed by Morgan Monroe. There we go. Thank you.
Hello, County Commissioners. My name is Jenny Jonak, and I have served on the Charter Review Committee, which I understand whose amendments will be before you soon. Our committee worked for over a year, taking into account multiple avenues of public comment, as well as input from numerous county employees to review the Lane County Charter and come up with the amendment recommendations that will be considered before you on June 26th. On May 23rd, a letter was submitted to the County Commissioners on behalf of a private citizen of Lane County seeking to submit his own proposed amendments to the Charter. None of these proposed amendments were ever submitted to the Charter Review Committee. They were never provided. This individual or his law firm never provided any input to the Charter Review Committee in writing or during the multiple opportunities for public comment that we opened up during the course of that year. Instead, this was submitted well after the process was over, after we had conducted multiple surveys, taking public input into account, and at a time when there was no meaningful way for the Charter Review Committee to address his proposal. By his own description in the letter, this individual is an extremely sophisticated, educated, politically connected individual who is himself an attorney and has the benefit of a law firm to advocate for him. There was no claim that he could not access the process or was prevented in any way from providing input to the Charter Review Committee during its work. To be clear, I am not casting any aspersions on this individual or his law firm, which is well regarded, but I'm very concerned about the process and about allowing a private citizen to submit private proposals that can be given the same weight and consideration at a public hearing without going through the process. If the commissioners feel that more public comment needs to be taken into account, that opportunity should be provided to all citizens of Lane County, not just one individual who has the privilege to have his own law firm draft something for him and trump the year-long process that is set forth in our Lane County laws. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your public comment. Next, I'll welcome Morgan Monroe to the podium, and then we will go to see if anyone's online, and then we'll come back to check at Harris Hall to see if anyone else wishes to address the board this morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. It's lovely to see you on this beautiful morning. Instead of repeating all of the wonderful points that Ms. Jonak made, I would just like to say that I'm in agreement with them. And instead of repeating them, there's a few things I would like to add. Our committee not only had multiple opportunities for public comment, I also served on the Charter Review Committee with her, but it was at every meeting. At every single meeting, we had opportunities for public comment. We accepted written public comment throughout the process. And we got submissions from community members who said, I think this should be in the charter. I think this is a draft piece that you should include. And as a committee, we evaluated them. And while the materials that you received had not been submitted to our committee, some of the ideas did come up over the course of our work. And there's a reason that those ideas were not included in the recommendation. The committee discussed things robustly. The committee evaluated whether ideas would stand the test of time. One of the things that's important in a charter is that it can stand the test of time, that you aren't going to the community time and time again because the only people who can change the charter are the voters. And to really honor the community's resources and the community's time, it's important that things that go in a charter would stand the test of time. Many of the pieces included in that portion of public comment you received, I do not believe would stand the test of time and would require updates in some pretty significant and frequent ways that would be concerning and I think would be a questionable use of our community's time. I also want to say this is why we have a committee. We have committees to go over these pieces, to think about them robustly, and to understand what's the impact on our county and on our charter. You had a group of folks who really care about where a comma goes, who care about the meaning of a word, and who really dug in deeply to understand what's the difference between a charter, what's the difference between the administrative rules in the county, and how do we sort of have these foundational documents for our county that will work well, be a good use of our community's resources, and stand the test of time. And that is what we included in our report to you that you received earlier this year. I am so excited that you are taking up the work of our committee. We spent tens and hundreds of hours putting that material together and doing this work, hearing public comment, reading the hundreds of survey responses that we got. And I think it really is exciting that our community could have an updated charter, and I hope that I see you again at the public hearing later this month, all about the specifics. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your public comment. At this time, I'll turn it over to Judy to see if there is anyone online wishing to address the board on any topic this morning.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to give public comment at the Board of County Commissioners meeting for June 11th, please raise your virtual hand at this time. All right, so I see one hand raised. So when I call on your name, I'll unmute you, and you'll be given a 3-minute timer for your public comment. I'm going to unmute you and then ask if you'd like to be on camera. It looks like you're muted on your...
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now perfectly. Would you like to be on camera, or are you okay?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, you can begin.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jeremy Shearer. I live at 8048 Thurston Road. And I'm also on the Charter Review Committee with the last two speakers, speaking on my own behalf. And I have been following the progress of our recommendations. I want to thank you for allowing me to review other amendments to the Charter. I'm here to encourage you to consider any and all Charter Amendment recommendations, whether they came from the committee or from a private citizen. To put this into context, the committee heard from a limited pool of people, mostly staff and some from the public, me included. The only proposals you will hear from the committee are those passed by a majority vote. You will not receive other proposals or a minority opinion from the committee. Before the proposed amendments go to a public vote, this body, not a committee, decides on matters of county concern. This includes the redistricting amendment proposals. Ideas come from many places and from a diverse citizenry. It is crucial to foster a democratic decision-making process on matters of consequence, such as the proposed redistricting amendment. This involves open debate on ideas, allowing them to stand on their own merit. The more diverse our ideas are, the higher the likelihood of a better outcome. I urge you to consider other proposals and different ideas wherever it may come from. And thank you. That's it.
Thank you for your public comment. If there's anybody else that would like to speak, please raise your virtual hand at this moment. Seeing none, I will return the meeting back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Judy. Is there anyone else who's come into Harris Hall since we started public comment who wishes to address the board this morning? Seeing no one, I will close the public comment period of the meeting, and thank you all, and turn it over to the board for any response to public comment or remonstrance this morning to the board. Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate those that came out to speak with us today, specifically about the Charter Review Committee. I share your concerns. We have a process called the Charter Review Committee in order to fully and transparently review any and every consideration that we put forward to the public if we do so in the future. That process is a democratic way in which to share with the public and vet any and all potential changes to the charter. And we had an issue with somebody at the very last minute coming in with their own proposals without going through the Charter Review Committee. I find that a way to subvert the process of the Charter Review Committee and find it extremely problematic. We will, of course, talk about this at our future public hearings and deliberations on any potential changes to the public, but I wanted to put on record my concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. You know, if you look behind you, Lane County Farmers Market will be operating today. Love to encourage you to be there. At some point it'll be year-round and more days than just Tuesdays. But today they have a wonderful selection of some locally grown, some brought regionally produce. And I want you all to go there after you leave this room today, because I'm going at lunchtime. I have a question for you, Mr. Rickoff, as the acting administrator. On June 25th, we have a public hearing, right?
I believe that's true, yes.
Can you tell me what a public hearing is? What is the nature of a public hearing?
The nature of the public hearing is the chance to, quite literally, hear from the public, have the chance to hear public comment and concerns.
And why do we want to hear from the public in a public? Is it to just tell them what we've decided?
It is, no, actually to develop ideas, listen to issues and concerns, and help round out the community dialogue on issues germane to the community that you'll then, quite honestly, act upon.
So this public hearing is not quasi-judicial. There isn't a closed record on this.
No, there is not.
So anybody who wishes to speak or submit written testimony for a public hearing are encouraged, not discouraged. They're encouraged to do so. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Commissioner Senegal.
Thanks everybody for coming out. We appreciate it. Charter Review Committee is a very dedicated group for sure. Yeah, this is unique because the Charter Review Committee comes in every 10 years to look over our charter and look at amendments. But you know, 18 of the last 21 charter amendments did not come through the Charter Review Committee. So it's not, that part's not uncommon at all. And I do think that all the public should have input on our charter. I mean, that's the point of it. And then it goes to a public hearing, and then it does go to the voters. So this is all part of the process, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. It's great to hear people come out and express their opinions and grievances and concerns before the public and before their governance. I think that's what we all should do. I cheer that every week, and thank you for doing that. I do agree with my former two colleagues. This is all part of the process. Public input is key, even if it comes in at the last minute. I think we live in a rapidly changing, evolving world that sometimes the processes sometimes limit the way we can think in the moment and have opportunities that we miss. So I'm looking forward to the public comment and the public's input at the meeting coming up, and we'll hold some more comments for that time. But thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Well, I will just add my appreciation to speakers this morning and to folks for paying attention to such an important item. We often refer to the charter as the county's constitution, which means it's the people's document, and that's why the people are who ultimately get to vote on it. But it is up to us to set a good and clear and integrous process for how and what is considered by the voters. And so I think that is really the crux of the matter. Like others, I'm sure I know, have more to say at the public hearing. Public hearing is different than public comment. I think the crux of the matter is what substantively is presented for a public hearing and consideration versus what is the comment given at that hearing. I think that is a very subtle but important process difference that some of us just have a different perspective on, and that's okay. That's we exhibit different perspectives up here on every agenda item every week, and that is how it works. I also want to point out, because Mr. Scherer mentioned minority opinion, and as I recall, I'm not looking to engage in conversation, but with the two members in the audience, when the Charter Review Committee presented to us their findings twice, you actually made a point, yes, they're both nodding, that's what I recalled, of presenting a sort of minority report, if you will, so that this board had the full understanding of the entirety of the process, all of the inputs, all of the staff support from our clerk, from our legal department, and other staff, and presented us the depth and breadth of opinion represented on that committee, because just like on this board, there's a range of opinion and perspective on that committee. And so, like others, I look forward to that public hearing. And I believe we will post it, of course, but I think it's actually scheduled for the 26th, just for anyone watching. I think it's scheduled for the Wednesday that week to give us a little more time, because we don't have a meeting next week, so we have a pretty full agenda that following week. But it will be posted just for final clarity. So thank you all, and like Commissioner Farr, hope that everyone will be out at the farmers market today. They're there till 2 o'clock. Commissioner Farr, did you have another comment? No?
No.
Okay, great, thank you. Then with that, seeing no other comment from the board, we will move on to the consent calendar item, and I'll look for a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item A2.
Yes, Chair, I move to adopt and approve the consent calendar for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, minus County Administration Item 1.2.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and adopted in a single motion, and so with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And now I see County Counsel Emily Vario and our Operations Director Lauren Blythe. I wasn't sure who was going to come before us. And again, this is still considered a routine matter. The only reason we pulled it was there was a request to make an amendment to the memo that attends this item, and it wasn't in time for us to publish with the rest of the materials, and that's why we pulled it out. So if you want to, whoever is presenting, please give us that clarification, then we can move that order independently. Thank you.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you for the time to address the matter with this contract amendment. This is an amendment to a contract with Piper Sandler and Company, who is and has acted as our financial advisor, particularly around debt issuance and refinancing. We've been partnering with them since 2000, actually not just 2002, I think 1994. And so, but in the review of the contract attached to the board packet and memo, Counsel Vario noted some language in the indemnification and liability clause that we wanted to make sure was in the county's best interest, and so we wanted to, didn't want to hold this up, wanted to get it moved forward, but wanted to bring attention to that and make sure there was time, in fact, to get that proper language added to the contract.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as I understand it, we can pass the order as it stands, understanding that you will be making some minor modifications to strengthen protections for the county in the contract, or we could choose not to and have you actually bring the final language back to us in 2 weeks and have it on the consent calendar on that date. But that it is somewhat timely because we're looking to get the contract in place. So.
Yes, Chair, that is correct.
Great, thank you. So any questions from the board or a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion, Chair.
Thank you.
I move to approve a contract amendment with Piper Sandler and Company and delegating authority to the county administrator to sign the contract as per order number 24-06-11-01.
I would second. Do we need just some language at all attached?
Added to with the amendments that Councilor.
Yeah.
I think the order doesn't change, is that correct?
Not change,
It will just
that
be
is
the,
correct.
so I
It's
don't
just that
think we need.
The memo needed to be, it needed to be understood by the council, that the commissioners, that the contract will be substantially similar. We're just working on a couple of pieces of language.
So we can adopt it as it's.
That is correct.
As it's written.
All right.
Motion stands.
I'll second as is.
Thank you. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, council, for being here. Appreciate you. This is, again, another example of good integrous process and just making sure everything's really clear on how we dot the i's and cross the t's. Appreciate you. That is the end of the consent calendar and that item, and so we are moving right along to item 7, County Administration. Are there any announcements this morning from County Administration?
Chair Trigger, I'm at a disadvantage here. There could very well be once the county administrator gets here, but I have no announcements for you.
Great. We will consider that item on hold and double check. We do have a 9:30 time certain, and we're a few minutes early, but I'm seeing many of our public health staff. Are we missing anyone, or are we ready to go? Great. Thank you. Well then, this is our semi-annual report as the Board of Health, and so I will now recess the regular Board of Commissioners and convene a joint meeting of the Board of Health and Board of County Commissioners. And for those watching, it is these same 5, but there is a statutory mandate about boards of health, and so we are now convened as the Board of Health and the Board of County Commissioners for item 1A with Health and Human Services to have the report, which is the semi-annual Board of Health report. And I will welcome Kachina Inman and have her introduce her panel. This is an approximate 1-hour presentation, report, and discussion. No action is needed on this today. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Traeger and Commissioners. It's an honor to be with you here today. I'm here on behalf of Director Gray, who is unable to join us. We also have our Public Health Administrator, Dr. Warren, who's in a training right now in Portland. So pleased to have Brian Johnson, our Program Manager here with Public Health, to take the lead along with an amazing team. We have Sarah Swafford, our Supervisor with the Public Health Reserve Corps, and Alicia Moore with our WIC program. And today, we often come to you with problems and concerns, and today we're going to switch that mood a little bit. There is always so much to celebrate in the public health space, and today we're going to take a moment to celebrate 2 pieces of work that are well-deserving. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brian Johnson.
Sure, and I'll actually keep it very brief since the real presentation is from our 2 folks here today. But Brian Johnson, I'm the Healthy Communities Unit Manager for Lane County Public Health, and this morning we're here really to celebrate 2 anniversaries. The first being the 50th anniversary of the WIC program. The federal WIC program has been in place since 1974 and has provided a broad range of services over that period of time for very successful period of time. And we're happy to celebrate that today. And then the second anniversary is actually the 1-year anniversary of the Public Health Reserve Corps, which has been in effect in Lane County very short amount of time, but it's been a wonderful achievement. And I'll just put a little context on that. I've been with the county for about 15 years. During that time, I was one of our public health preparedness coordinators. And at the time, we were introduced to the idea of the Public Health Reserve Corps when I first started. And it had been in effect in discussion at least 5 years prior to that. So 2 decades of discussion have now moved forward into an effective launch of that Public Health Reserve Corps. So we're happy to give you a little more detail on that this morning. We're going to start out first off with the WIC program, and I will hand it over to Alicia here in just 1 second. But we are thinking we will take questions after each presentation, if that makes sense to you, Chair. Okay. So we'll plan to work it that way, and we'll stop for questions after the WIC presentation, and then we'll move into the Reserve Corps discussion as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Alicia, who's our Program Services Coordinator, who's been really effective in a lot of outreach work related to WIC, and we'll give you a broad overview of what we've been up to lately and some of the historical context. So all yours, Alicia.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Commissioners, so much for having us here today. Do I need to do anything to share this?
Yes, there's a card by there that gives you directions on how to do it. If you haven't sent it ahead of time. Otherwise, you can. Judy's listening to me, so I think, Judy, she could still send it to you and have you run it. Is that right, if this runs into a snag?
Yes, Cameron is running down there at the moment. This is one that I don't have to share, but he should be there momentarily. But you do just share this one, and there are instructions on the table. in the way many did.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
Fine.
Have you done this? Okay.
We need cavalry music. Just the room.
Do you have experience with this?
I'm gonna learn. That's Cameron.
I prefer inventory.
Yeah.
Depends on the cavalry.
I just doesn't take.
So, I can go ahead and get started while he's helping you, if that's all right. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about myself, just for context. I used to work as a physician assistant, or PA, in community health, and I found it very challenging because my patients were coming to me with problems, health symptoms, but it was quite obvious that the root cause of those medical symptoms was social and economic disparities that they were facing. And I was not fully equipped in a 15-minute medical office visit to address those root causes, so it was a real challenge. And I mention that today just because the WIC program is a program that is addressing those very challenges. I'm so excited to be working for WIC now because, as I'll discuss today, the WIC program is a powerful preventative health program that really is helping to prevent these long-term health consequences that I was seeing by addressing the root causes. So I'm excited to be doing this work, and I hope I can spread some of that enthusiasm to you guys today. As Brian mentioned, this year, 2024, is the 50th anniversary of the WIC program, and the program has endured that long because it has evolved and intentionally been designed to be more than just a food security program, but to be a powerful preventative health program that addresses multiple social determinants of health. If you look at the social determinants of health as described in the Healthy People's reports, Healthy People's 2020 and 2030, WIC is addressing multiple of those social determinants, and one of the reasons we're able to do that is because of the unique design of the WIC program. Unlike many preventative health programs, WIC has a long-term relationship with participants. So a person is eligible for WIC as soon as they find out that they're pregnant, through their pregnancy, postpartum, and from the birth of that child until that child turns 5. So that's almost 6 years of an ongoing relationship where we have quarterly contacts with that family. So multiple times to have inputs and help support families, give them education, and empower them to make lasting changes that impact long-term health. Combined with the nutritious food benefits that we offer that help improve nutrition, and the connection with resources and education that we give, it all combines to make a really impactful and cost-effective program. Looking at the social determinants of health, WIC helps improve health and healthcare access. Studies have shown that WIC participants have better pregnancy outcomes, longer pregnancies, they're less likely to have preterm births, better birth outcomes, and higher birth weights. WIC participants have higher initiation of breastfeeding and longer-term success with breastfeeding. Obviously, better nutrition from having access to healthy food benefits, and that nutrition comes at this critical time during the growth of the baby, during pregnancy, and then also in that critical time of development from birth to age 5. Studies show lower rates of iron deficiency in children that participate in WIC compared to children on Medicaid who are not participating. and very importantly, lower rates of childhood obesity, which we know is a very costly and impactful condition that can develop in childhood and then affect the entire, the health of that client for their entire life. So helping to prevent childhood obesity. Participants in WIC also show they're more likely to be accessing their regular well child checks with their healthcare provider and also dental care. And then that translates to them being more likely to be up to date on their immunizations too. So WIC participation is, again, impacting so much more than just food security. Locally, we're really excited to have a program that we've developed here in partnership with our CCOs, the Q-TIP program, or Quit Tobacco in Pregnancy program. This is an incentivized program that helps support participants in quitting nicotine use with the goal of quitting prior to delivery. Clients are able to participate and earn gifts, helpful baby gifts, just for participating. Then once they are quit, they begin to qualify for gift certificates. The program is more powerful because it also follows the client after they deliver the baby and helps to support them during that critical, stressful time of being a new parent. So we get a lot of feedback, positive feedback from our participants on how much this program helped them. We're lucky to have a nationally certified tobacco and nicotine cessation specialist, Samantha Apodaca, running this program, and lots of participants really appreciating this assistance. WIC is also impacting health and long-term health through having dental services on site. This is a collaboration with the CHC to provide 2 extended practice dental hygienists. Cavities and oral health problems, gingivitis and tooth disease, are one of the most common chronic illnesses of childhood. And now we understand that the health of our mouth affects not just our mouth, but can in fact impact the health of our blood vessels, even our mental health. You know, it affects our entire body. So getting kids off to a healthy start and also allowing our pregnant and postpartum clients to have dental screenings is an impactful way that we're also improving health. One of the 4 pillars of education for WIC is to promote and support breastfeeding or chest feeding in our clients. All of our staff who do the appointments with participants are trained, have comprehensive training to help support breastfeeding. And we're lucky also that our program supervisor, Tammy Johnson, is an internationally board-certified lactation consultant, so she can help support clients who are having more complex issues. We're checking in with our postpartum moms after they deliver, calling them to check in and see how feeding is going, see if we can refer them, if we can support them or refer them to other community supports to help support success in breastfeeding. We also have a weekly drop-in time on Thursdays where we have the baby scales out and we have lactation and feeding staff on hand where clients can drop in and get support. And then individual one-on-one appointments are always available also. Social and community context is another important social determinant of health that we really focus on. Again, with those ongoing relationships and those multiple inputs, we are able to build relationship. We also strategically design classes to help our new parents meet other parents who are also navigating the same journey of early parenthood. And individually in appointments, we're assessing clients and referring them to parenting support and parenting education groups like Parenting Now, Well Mama, Daisy Chain, to further help support them in that way. This year, we were excited to I don't know how to get that off the screen, sorry.
Good.
That's all right.
We all want to look at the baby.
This year we were excited to host some collaborations with our local partners. We've been hosting a really popular and well-attended parent mental health support group every Thursday. Well Mama runs this and we host it in our WIC classroom. It kind of overlaps with a baby check-in time that I mentioned that we have. And it's really fun to pop your head into that classroom. If you're ever in the Charnotson building, there's like 10 to 15 families in there with their little ones each week. There's a mental health facilitator who helps run a little session where they give tools for dealing with the stresses and anxieties and feelings that come up around parenting, and then there's like an open sharing time. It's really great to see these new parents forming relationships there. We also had a 5-week infant massage class as a collaboration with Daisy Chain that was also at our office. This is a great way for parents to just gain confidence in their ability to soothe their infant. It really promotes bonding and can help soothe like a colicky or a fussy baby. So local massage therapist Anna Miller helped us with that. Another great time for families to meet other parents navigating that phase of parenting a newborn. We've been participating long-term in a nationwide study called the Feeding My Baby study that's referenced at the end. But this was some data that came from their most recent report, really emphasizing that this is one of the real benefits of the WIC program is this social and community support. A large percentage of clients mentioned, these are clients who had participated all the way through, their child was approaching their 5th birthday or their graduation from WIC, and mentioning that talking with parents, having staff that listened to their concerns, that relationship building was a big reason that they stayed in the program for that long, in addition to the education and information. And this quote on the left was a review or a comment that someone left on our Facebook page. Their kids were about to graduate, really highlighting that the friendships that she made over the years through WIC was a big part of what benefited their family. WIC also improves educational readiness. Studies show that kids participating in WIC have improved cognitive scores and improved memory scores upon entry to preschool compared to kids on Medicaid who were not participating. You know, we are giving those nutritious foods during that critical time of development, but also those inputs along the way to help support the family. At each appointment, we are assessing kids for where they're at on their developmental milestones and helping to refer and connect families for programs like speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral interventions when needed. So that really helps them to get ready prior to entering the school system. And then we're referring families and helping to connect them to our early learning programs like Head Start and Preschool Promise to help get them school ready. WIC is also impacting economic stability by giving nutritious healthy food benefits and addressing food security. But also that increased success with breastfeeding helps save families money, not just in formula or feeding, but also breastfeeding reduces illnesses and lost work time. By having those food benefits, that frees up family finances for other expenses like housing, transportation, clothing. And then again, we are referring our clients as needed to other community supports and other public support programs, so they're more likely to be participating in housing assistance and utility assistance and programs like that that impact their economics. But WIC is not just impacting the individual's economic stability, we're also having an impact on our local economy, our local food economy. Last year in Lane County, our participants spent over $4.7 million on their WIC card at 42 different Lane County stores. And then we have this Farm Direct program in the summer where we give out vouchers to use at the farmers markets or at participating farms around the state so that clients are able to access locally grown fresh fruits and vegetables, and then to support our local farmers and help keep our food supply here strong. So last summer, our clients paid $56,000 to 69 different local farms just in Lane County. And we will actually be at the farmers market right after this, so you'll see me there giving out those Farm Direct checks. So our WIC funding, again, we are a program of the USDA. Our budget is approved annually through the Appropriations Committee. Once that budget is approved by Congress and voted on, the money is administered to the states. The state of Oregon then develops an expected caseload for us locally at Lane County, and that's based upon a variety of factors such as birth rates, population size, historic participation, and we are required to maintain 97 to 103% of enrollment of that expected caseload in order to maintain our funding. So we have faced a lot of challenges in the last 4 or 5 years since COVID, starting with COVID on caseload. During the WIC services were always set up to be in person. We didn't have any alternate setup. So during the pandemic shutdown, we had to quickly pivot to offering phone services, but that was something that had never been set up before. We are proud and happy that there was no lapse in services. All of our clients had continuous services despite that. However, especially in our outlying areas, not everybody has phone access for phone appointments. So if you're living in a rural area, you might not have good phone service. Our participants may have a prepaid phone that runs out of minutes, or a phone that's sometimes shut off because of economic circumstances. So we did lose contact with some participants, unfortunately. Also, during COVID, there was an influx of a lot of food support. SNAP dollars went up. There were new food programs. School districts were delivering food to people's houses. There were drive-through places to pick up food. And the WIC card does require that you go into the store and shop in person inside the grocery store at a cashier. So there were families who did not want to go inside the store or did not feel safe, bringing their kids inside the store to shop, and were choosing some of those other food options. So that impacted our caseload. We're also seeing in our program migration out of Lane County. Each year we've been losing more clients moving away than we're gaining moving in. So that's impacted it. And importantly, our birth rate is down. And since our caseload is pregnant people and people who've recently had babies and young babies, that's obviously going to impact our caseload. But despite all of those outputs, the good news is that as of April, we are at 100% of our caseload. And how we did that was very strategic. Coming back after the shutdown, we realized we really need to reach these people that we haven't been able to reach or that have had barriers to access. So we sat down and took a look at the Lane County Strategic Plan and the Public Health Strategic Plan and recognized that we really wanted to center on equity and specifically targeting our rural and outlying areas who face the greatest barriers to access. Also looking at collective impact, we knew that we are stronger when we work together. We're more cost effective and more efficient when we're working together with community partners and other public programs that are working in the same participant base so that we can work together and be most efficient. So forming collaborations, and then also just modernizing our services so they're easier to access. So modernization, I refer to this in my report, but we are able now for the first time ever to offer both phone services and in-person services. 72% of Lane County WIC families are working families, so having phone appointments as an option really helps them with their busy schedules. And we were able to come up with other ways to make it easier for clients to access us and contact us, like a texting platform, walk-in services. So if you don't have phone access, you can just walk into our clinic for service. And then most importantly, this marks our 1-year anniversary of our collaboration with the Mobile Public Health Program to provide services to our outlying communities mobilely. So I'm going to skip this for right now and move forward to talk about that Mobile Public Health Program. I hope you can appreciate my first foray into graphic arts. This is the mobile medical vehicle. Coming back after COVID, we realized we'd lost some of our locations. We used to provide services in Florence at the Nazarene Church, which actually shut down, and at the WAC in Oak Ridge, which was also sort of shut down. And so we were looking for a location and took a look at Mobile Public Health's mission, which was to bring services to Lane County families where they live and work, and realized that's exactly what we needed to do. So we formed this partnership a year ago in June last year and began taking the mobile medical vehicle to Florence twice a month. We've gone there 24 times now. And later, after figuring out how that all worked, began going to Oak Ridge and then later Cottage Grove. So here's a view inside the mobile medical vehicle. It's got 2 private exam rooms. There's a bathroom, there's heat, there's air conditioning, there's running water. And the great thing about it, it's mobile, so we can make it accessible for people because we want to be visible and we want to be somewhere where clients can get to. So we're parking at the library on 9th Street in Florence. It's right there downtown when you first come into town. It's on the bus line. It's walkable for a lot of clients. And then we're parking in the Orchid Health parking lot off Highway 58 in Oak Ridge. So again, very visible. In Cottage Grove, we've been going to the South Lane Early Learning Center, which is a building that a lot of our clients already have a relationship with and interacting with, they're familiar with. So it's a small area, but there's room to weigh babies and measure babies and check those hemoglobins, which are things we can't do over the phone. So really great to have in-person services. I'm just going to go back to, we also embarked on a QI project in Cottage Grove, looking at how can we increase our access to our South Lane residents who have historically had more barriers to access. And we were specifically looking at making sure that they could get access to those Farm Direct dollars that I talked about. We did that by engaging community partners like South Lane Early Learning Center and their program, the Piggy's Primary Connection, which again already have a relationship with that client base. We also did some listening sessions with clients, and we were able to successfully increase how many clients received those Farm Direct checks last summer and how many of them used the checks. So that was really great to see, great to make those connections with the community also. Our next step is to apply that information that we learned in Cottage Grove, and we're applying that this summer to Oak Ridge and trying to increase access in Oak Ridge. So I've mentioned several collaborations, but we've been collaborating with so many people. It's really great. It's great to get those relationships built back up after COVID. Also, I just really wanted to quickly mention Lane County Diaper Bank is providing us with diapers on hand, so we have a big stash of those that we get every month to provide to clients. Bags of Love, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that program, but they're providing bags on hand for families in crisis. We've been communicating and brainstorming with SIUSLA Outreach Services in Florence on how to better access our Florence clients, and working with our farmers markets to deliver the Farm Direct checks. I'll be up in Oak Ridge on the Sunday markets, and we go to Cottage Grove in Florence also. Working with the food shares and cultural organizations. But we're also heavily involved. Our work is entwined with other county programs too. We are supporting one another. We actually have a full-time staff member from the Family Child Health Program in our office because of the high volume of referrals we make to their nurse-family partnership programs and other nurse visiting programs. And then multiple other, county programs that we are referring to and receiving referrals from and working alongside, often collaborating on outreach with. So where we are headed, we're excited to announce that we actually have a dedicated space in that federally qualified community health center building that's opening in Cottage Grove this fall. So that will be fabulous. We'll have this dedicated area where we can provide services there. And that will free up the mobile medical vehicle. And so we're trying to think of some outlying areas that we would like to visit. Thinking about maybe Thurston, Vida, Marcola, Junction City, Veneta, Triangle Lake, Mapleton, places where transportation might be an issue, and also sometimes people don't have great phone service, really wanting to reach out to those areas. We'll be applying our QI findings to Oak Ridge, as I mentioned, doing some outreach to tribal offices and other community cultural organizations to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support participation in those populations, and also recognizing that there are OHP pregnancies and OHP births that are not enrolled in WIC, so doing some targeted strategizing with our CCOs, our hospitals, and our OBGYNs and midwives on how to better get more OHP pregnancies and births enrolled in WIC. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much to the board. Commissioner Farr.
I don't want to belabor you with a host of questions, which I do have.
Okay.
I could listen to you all day, because what you're describing is an outreach that directly affects people's lives immediately, the moment you come into contact with them. And I've found through my limited experience, and my experience is far more limited than yours, that when you come face to face with the folks who are receiving the services, it is far easier to understand why services are needed and what is needed beyond existent services. And what you're describing is a way to increase our effectiveness, increase our outreach, increase access, whether it be through mobile, through phone services, etc. But as you mentioned, hemoglobin you can't do over the phone, so we have to bring people in or go out to them. I love the mobile nature of the mobile unit. One thing you have said, and I write down quotes, and this is your quote for the days. It's really fun to pop your head into that classroom if you have an opportunity. And you were talking about the WIC classroom at Charlton Building. I've walked past it. With your invitation, I'm going to do exactly that, because once again, when you see the effect of the work and the folks who are receiving the services, you begin to understand how much more we really can do even beyond what we are doing. And I just thank you so much for having been a PA and now taking that experience directly onto the ground and helping the people who need the help today, prenatal, natal, and postnatal, it's just remarkable the work that you do. And I will say that Commissioner Trieger and I work with Food for Lane County. Commissioner Trieger was the advocacy director for Food for Lane County, and what her job was elevating our attention far beyond food, but to the root causes, the root reasons that people need the services. She was one of the first people that really opened my eyes to getting deep into the community to see why people need services. And providing services is one way to make certain that people are getting services, but understanding why they need the service. That's what you're describing. That's what you're talking about. And bravo. I applaud. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Farr. It's Thursdays 11 to 1.
Okay, that's part of your quote now.
Commissioner Seneca.
Yes, thank you very much. Great presentation. The services you provide are amazing, and it's the quality of them that I really look at. I mean, talking about dental hygiene, my wife's a dental hygienist, so I get talked to about this every now and then. But you're exactly right when you talk about the health of your whole body, and the more research they do, a lot of that comes from the mouth. In the kind of farm to table stuff you're talking about, I mean, what a great place for kids to go and to shop for vegetables and to learn how these things work and to play in the dirt. And I mean, I'm thinking of Hensey Farms. You go out there and you can grab a pumpkin and a lemonade, and your kids can run for hours. So I just really applaud you. Thank you. These are great programs. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's one of the things we tell our parents if the kids won't eat vegetables is like, try to grow your own or go to the farm and let them pick their own. You know, that makes them much more interested in them. So thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, I agree with my colleagues. This is a fantastic program, but one of the things that really struck my heart is, all the people responding to your survey saying that they want to be in it because of the connections that they're making. And that's really important because, when you're having a child and a little one, they consume everything about you, right? Every instant of every second, you are consumed by their needs. And in many ways, it can feel very isolating. And you're wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working? What's happening with my child? And don't always have the connection to a community and knowing that you're not the only one that's going through everything. And learning from fellow parents on how to care for your child. And it creates less of a stigma of asking really hard questions that you might otherwise be embarrassed to ask about, but are really important on how you care for your baby and how they grow up over the first, really crucial 5 years that you serve. So I thank you for the program. I'm so excited to celebrate the 50-year anniversary. And it's also really exciting to know that the ways in which people utilize their WIC card now has changed drastically over time. And in some ways, in the past, the way that it was utilized, having to go in person into I mean, it can feel very stigmatizing, just the way in which you use the actual card or finances associated with them. And with the change in technology and the change of locations, that stigma has lessened over time. So people aren't necessarily going in there and buying full price for something we know that they can't afford when they really have this benefit and we want them to be able to use the benefit. So I appreciate that change over time too. Thank you, Chair.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a lot of good accolades here, Alicia, and for all of your team. Congratulations on doing that. I never knew the work was this broad and this deep. I mean, I remember as a kid I don't think any of you were born in '74, were you? Maybe Brian, maybe just barely. But I remember this used to be a real social stigma. I mean, I remember the industrial age parents would stand in line and hear whisperings about someone throwing those coupons, those green coupons that they used to have. I remember that vividly as a kid, not knowing that the program had evolved so much as it is today. So really, thank you for doing what you do. But Alicia, I want to say something to you personally. I was really impressed by what you said. You said that WIC is designed to be more than food security, but an aid for addressing both social determinants to health. And as my colleague said, his wife is a dental hygienist, mine's a retired dental hygienist, so we floss daily kind of thing because it's part of what we do. But I think what impressed me the most about your whole presentation and what you folks do at this table is the connection that you make, and that connection is that you said that you were a PA, and I got friends who are PAs and they make great money, and I'm certain that you don't make the money here that you would as a PA. So you made the connection that your gift to humanity was better served somewhere else, and you were willing to put forth a sacrifice to not only make that connection, but to act upon that in an admirable and an empathetic way. And so I want to just I had a quote of a book that I read just recently. It said, "Those who have been through and are experienced in hardships are better equipped to know what those going through tough times need, with more compassion and empathy." And I want to speak that over you, because I really got that from you, that your compassion and empathy drives what you do, and it really drives what Health and Human Services does for our county. And I just want to bring the public aware of that. We got some really fine people doing some really great work because they serve from the heart. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Well, I will add to the chorus. One thing I just have to mention, since the dental work is happening, and it's been mentioned up here, my uncle, who's no longer with us, was a actually world-renowned pain management specialist and oral surgeon, and he used to say, "Ignore your teeth and they'll go away." So just for that. But just it really is wonderful that this program has added dental in. That I have shared before. I was the mom in line getting sneered at and whispered about using WIC coupons. My daughter is approaching 40, so this is very exciting to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of this program that really now has impacted 2 generations in many cases. And so I can speak from personal experience, as well as then later in my life, my experience working at the food bank and in other social service organizations and doing advocacy with working parents about what they need, about how important this program really is for all the reasons that have been mentioned by your presentation, by my colleagues, particularly around the stress of new parenting, the stress of not having the resources to purchase nutritious food reliably, the stress of the isolation of it all and the newness. When I was a WIC mom, as I said, almost 40 years ago, we lived in rural coastal Oregon. And so the barriers were great. The office was 60 miles away. You had to go in person. There wasn't a phone option. There didn't exist an online option at that time, even if there for anything at that yet, back in the old times. And so it's just always so great for me when the WIC program is at the table, because it's just such a personally impactful, again, almost 40 years on, I still identify as a WIC mom. It was a part of my new parenting experience. We all remember our new parenting experiences, the good and the bad, and it was a huge piece of my really staying sane and staying grounded and not being isolated, living in such a small rural community in particular, having a regular place to go, know the baby was developing healthy, getting support for successful breastfeeding, all the things you mentioned, personal testimony here. I have two quick questions for you. One, you mentioned working with Sayusla Outreach, particularly to reach more families in the Florence community, but I know they also do domestic violence support services. And so I wondered if you're also, in your list of community organizations, didn't see specifically organizations working on support for people who are experiencing domestic violence, and that's one of those things where I imagine there might be some people who also don't want a phone interview because they may not be safe to talk about what they need to talk about from home by phone. So is that a community partnership that you're exploring more of, and specifically training your folks to identify who might need those services in particular?
Yes, that is something that we're doing. I know especially was important during COVID when people were stuck in the house. So we do work closely with DHS, and we have an annual training on just to refresh us on awareness, and it's a required training. But when anyone gets a job as a certifier, the job position that does carry out the appointments is looking for those, monitoring for those signs, and doing reporting. And we do spend, unfortunately, a lot of time on the phone making reports when we have any suspicion. And then we are referring to programs like Hope and Safety Alliance and Sayusla Outreach Services for support, and to DHS for domestic violence grants, also helping to connect our families when needed. It is sadly something that we do handle with some frequency. But yeah, we do have annual trainings, and then a large, more in-depth training upon hiring for that purpose.
Great, thank you.
And I also do outreach to those organizations to make sure they have our information on hand and are up to date with how to refer clients if they see the client first and know that the client needs food assistance, so that it goes both ways. Yeah, that is very important.
Thank you. And then my other question, speaking of that, is how are the caseload numbers determined? And if it's at the federal level, how long do you think it will take for their formula to catch up with our data with outmigration and lower birth rates, so that we don't become ineligible or have problems meeting that 93 to 100% threshold?
Right. And I don't know if you have more information about that, Brian,
Well, I could add,
the specifics?
yeah, I could add a little bit. I mean, I don't know to what extent their formula is catching up, but the state of Oregon has actually been really cooperative with us, in fact, with setting our caseload numbers and taking into account what does it really look like locally and how are you working at it. So they've, to that extent, they've actually helped us set targets that are more realistic with where the current population standards look like. So that's great. We're at least seeing that happening already.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, thank you again very much for your presentation and for your work.
Yes, thank you, Chair Trieger. I appreciate it. Thank you, all of you commissioners, for your support. It's really great to be here and to have your support, and for all of your encouraging comments. I appreciate it.
Great. And so now we're going to hear from a future 50-year anniversary celebrant about the first year, right, of the public health.
Just as we transition, as there's getting set up here, just a couple things which you all echoed and I very much appreciate. Really some running themes from that presentation about WIC and how we've managed to stay relevant over 50 years, which I think is an important point. At 50 years, it's easy for a program to just kind of keep plugging along and not changing in response to the community. And there are really three key things that Alicia drew out for you. One is the relationship piece, really, really strongly. Relationships are at the core of all of our family and child health programs. You've heard that before in some of our earlier presentations, and that close collaboration that's already happening between WIC and family and child health and nurse home visiting and all the work we do out in the community. So relationships are core and central, and which is why people keep coming back and why they stay engaged in the program and why it's so impactful and remembered over time. The collaborations, the work we've been doing in the communities, the smaller communities in particular, reaching out into Florence and the Sayusla area and also in South Lane to really make that work in our partnerships with the mobile medical vehicles, just to be present and aware and in the communities, and then also just modernizing our services. Those are at the core. We can't stay relevant if we don't modernize over time. So WIC is still there and present, and we really appreciate all the work that's been done. So I'm going to transition over to Sarah Swafford, who's the supervisor of the Public Health Reserve Corps. And again, just acknowledging this successful one-year anniversary date, which is, we'll start at the newborn and the 50-year-old. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in this program. And one thing in particular, during COVID, it was we are one of the largest counties in the state of Oregon that did not have a Public Health Reserve Corps during that time. But that's not to say we didn't have a very strong volunteer response. We had over 500 volunteers or more who had connected and made us successful during that time. And we really saw the value in bringing in, formalizing a Public Health Reserve Corps locally and making this happen. And Sarah's really been the champion to bring that forward. And so it's taken some effort and it's taken some collaborations, which we've talked about in the WIC work. It's also true in the Public Health Reserve Corps, and in particular, close collaboration internally with our legal counsel to really work through the different opportunities and barriers that are in front of us to implement a successful program. And we're getting there, and we are making some progress. So I really appreciate that. It's all yours. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me here. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Let's see if I can figure out how to share this. Okay. The Lane County Public Health Reserve Corps was officially approved by the federal government as a medical reserve corps in April of 2023. Lane County received 2 years of funding for 2 full-time positions, a supervisor, which is me, and a coordinator, who is Cayetana Gomez de Soler, who's back there, along with some of our volunteers here today, through the MRC Strong Grant. And so our funding runs through July of 2025. We onboarded our very first volunteer in September of 2023, who is also here today, Dr. Fran Munkenbeck back there. And since then, we've onboarded, I believe this week it's a total of 13 volunteers. We've developed strong relationships with local and state partners and have started a robust Blue Skies emergency preparedness education program for the county's most disaster vulnerable populations. The LCPHRC has had 2 official activations. We did 3 days of clean and cool air respite sheltering support during the Lookout and Bedrock fires in August of 2023, which was a governor-declared emergency, and 4 days providing medical triage in the Red Cross shelter at the Cottage Grove Community Center, and supporting food distribution and community support efforts at the Springfield Community Resource Center during the federally declared winter storm disaster in January of 2024. Currently, we are also activated to support communicable disease and public health during the current pertussis outbreak. So when communicable disease nurses are overburdened and cannot respond to all of the pertussis cases, our volunteers are provide backup to call in prophylaxis. The PHRC has worked closely with Lane County Search and Rescue, Eugene Springfield Fire, Plaza de la Comunidad, Escudo Latino, ARC of Lane County, Heart Safe Program at Peace Health, the State Network of Medical Reserve Corps, Oregon Health Authority's State Emergency Registry of Volunteers, which we call SERVOR, Lane County Emergency Management, and community organizations active in disaster, just to name a few. We've trained SAR and Oregon MRC Leadership Network on culturally responsive emergency response and volunteerism, and presented on health equity alongside the Vermont State MRC and St. Louis County MRC in Chicago at the MRC National Conference back in May last month. We hold monthly drills for our volunteers, and so we have exercised all kinds of different skill sets, including radio use, protocols, incident command system, medical search support, cultural responsiveness, medical scenarios, and triage after a catastrophic earthquake. We are currently setting up to do our largest exercise to date, and we're hoping to do it at the end of July, before hopefully wildfire season is in effect. Our unit has developed curricula in Spanish for hands-only CPR, cultural responsiveness, and we've worked with the county's health officer to complete emergency medical protocols that can be followed during activations, and we used as our model Eugene Springfield Fire's medical protocols and procedures so that if we are ever called to support them as backup, we will be in alignment with the protocols that they use. The PHRC has also been working to develop our standards of operations, guidelines, protocols. As you can imagine, developing a new program has a lot of that type of work involved. Our non-emergency activities have been a success we're proud of and continue to grow. So far, we've trained 117 people. Oh, there's the national conference, that's Chicago. Forgot to change slides. This was our radio operations exercise. There we go. We've so far trained 117 people from underserved communities in hands-only CPR since August during 4 community-based events. These have been held at the Cottage Grove Community Center and with ARC of Lane County at our facility here at the Health and Human Services building, as well as their facility. Trainings have included also Narcan training in collaboration with our public health prevention program. 2 of the trainings have been conducted in Spanish, and our partners have included Plaza de la Comunidad, ARC of Lane County, and Escudo Latino. So we've created kind of a consortium where monthly they sign people up who are interested in having these trainings. And the reason that we focused on our Spanish-speaking populations is that we saw some, the American Heart Association consolidated hospital data across the whole country and was able to show that our communities of color are 20 to 40% less likely to receive CPR than white community members based on, bias, but also the lack of training among their own families and friends, and especially outside of a clinical setting. And so that is a barrier that we're working in collaboration with the HeartSafe program with Peace Health. And we are the primary partner that is doing Spanish language hands-only CPR trainings. A training that we held at one of the largest farms in the county saved a life the same week that we held the training. There was a farm worker who attended the training and recognized that they were having symptoms of possible cardiac issues, went immediately to their doctor, and was sent in for an emergency life-saving bypass. So we were really excited that we had that kind of success and were able to show that we're making an impact. The more trainings that we do, the more requests we receive for additional trainings. And an expansion of topics to include general family emergency preparedness. Our focus for what we call our Blue Skies activities is to serve and reach those who are most vulnerable during disasters and emergencies, and all of those served thus far have been from these populations. We also plan to expand our Train the Responder efforts, serving diverse community members in respectful and affirming ways. We're working with behavioral health to develop a capacity building training on best practices to serve people experiencing intellectual and developmental disabilities. We're having that training for our volunteers tomorrow evening, actually. We offer these trainings to other responder agencies when they request them, such as SAR or Eugene Springfield Fire. Another success is the recognition our program has been receiving. The LCPHRC was nominated by the Conference of Local Health Officials Emergency Preparedness and Response Awards Committee, that's a mouthful, for the Public Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Exceptional Group Achievement or Partner Award. We were featured in the May newsletter of the National Association of County and City Health Officials, that's NACHO, not Nacho, for our winter storm response. And finally, KLCC did a feature on our hands-only CPR work just a couple of weeks ago. Amidst these successes, we do face barriers. We, along with the department leadership and county council, continue to navigate administrative hurdles to build a structure for this program in a county system that has never housed a volunteer program such as ours. We're also seeking external funding for our 2-person staff team, as well as for the supplies and training expenses that we need as we continue to expand our efforts. The Public Health Reserve Corps has been welcomed into the emergency preparedness efforts of our county partners and emergency management. We're learning to work closely with these partners and are integrating our efforts into the plans, procedures, and meetings that exist to kind of set us up in terms of our emergency support functions and how we can support those. These collaborations have been extremely positive and supportive and help guide our programmatic development to be ready to respond when Lane County needs us and build Lane County's resilience from the ground up when we are not responding to emergencies. Thank you for your time, and I was wondering if I could have a moment to introduce our volunteers. Is that okay?
Please.
Thank you so much. From left, we have Dr. Munkenbeck, who was our first PHRC volunteer. Next to her is Cayetana Gomez de Soler, who is the coordinator and heart of our program. Then we have Eduardo Tapia, who is he's a double award winner because he volunteers for both search and rescue and for PHRC. And we had Connie Sullivan, who used to work for the county in public health and before she retired, and has devoted her, I don't know where she went. She's devoted a lot of time to supporting our efforts throughout COVID and now with the PHRC. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Connie was the WIC program manager.
She was, yep.
For a full circle moment here.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from the board? Commissioner Buck.
Thank you. It's really exciting to see how the whole program has developed, because I know during COVID I had, physicians that had been retired going, we want to help, but there's not a way to plug in officially through Lane County to do it, and they were quite frustrated. You probably heard from them, right?
Yes, we did. We were frustrated too. We wanted to be able to bring them on and have their support.
Right. And so I'm sure they were finding other ways to try to volunteer in the moment, but without being able to use their official capacity, it felt like we were leaving, resources on the table and not being able to care for them. And it's really important to note also that the time and energy associated with this isn't going to be like a one event in a lifetime situation. Clearly, our volunteers have already been working in emergency situations a number of times in this last year. And so utilizing their services for when there is a snowmageddon, an ice-mageddon, a wildfire season is really, really important. And I sincerely want to thank all the volunteers of your team. We know that you could be doing anything else with your time. And making this a priority for your community is just really heartwarming. And I know that the people that you serve really feel the impact, and I couldn't be more thankful for you being willing to step up.
So much, Commissioner.
Commissioner Seneca.
Yes, thank you. What a great presentation. What a great program. You hear a lot about in emergencies building resilient infrastructure, but what else can we do? We can be resilient ourselves. So, I just looking at this thing full circle. I took a note. You said you trained 117 people. What exactly do you mean trained 117 people?
So what we are doing, our primary intervention right now is, and we're doing it for various reasons, obviously, to build the ability of people to have more resilience in terms of supporting themselves, their families. We're focusing on hands-only CPR. So that means, I don't know if you've ever had a CPR, gone through the CPR training, but it's 4 hours. It costs $100, and not everyone, most people actually can't afford it. It's a huge barrier. We're actually looking at some ways that even for our own volunteers, we could have provide that for free. And so often it's a necessity even for applying for jobs. And hands-only CPR focuses just on recognizing signs of cardiac arrest and understanding how to give quality compressions, which can absolutely save a life, and they do, because we know that the more time that you have without compressions, the less oxygen reaches the brain, which means that, someone can actually survive 7-10 minutes if they're having quality compressions. Whereas if there's no blood circulating with oxygen to the brain, then the outcomes are much worse. And so it's not with the breaths and the full training. It is just quality compressions, how to use an AED. We have practice AEDs because those are pretty intimidating. Also, we're focusing on Spanish speakers. So how do they, do all AEDs have Spanish? What does it sound like in English? How do you call 911? There are interpretation services with our 911 services, but I believe we don't have Spanish-speaking 911 operators, and so also even coaching on how to share what's going on where you are, things like that. So really reducing those barriers.
Excellent. Yeah, if I remember, you do compressions to, was it Staying Alive or something like that?
Yes, yes.
That's the one they tell you. Thank you. That's awesome program.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, that was my question, was the 117 people. I mean, you got 117 people and 13 volunteers. You guys are herding some serious cats here, right? And, you know, it's really great, too, that you also have the esprit de corps, if you will, that when you know you have those volunteers, you treat them right, you recognize and acknowledge them because, you know, working with volunteers like my wife and I've done over our career, you know, a Starbucks gift card goes a long way, you know what I mean? So I appreciate the fact that you create that esprit de corps in your community of people that serve, and it's only going to make the community better. So, good job.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Trigger. Can you say again the names of the volunteers who are back here?
Yes, Dr. Fran Munkenbeck, Eduardo Tapia, and we have Connie Sullivan, who was here, and she had to step out, I think. And then Cayetana is our coordinator.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, I listened to KLCC, and there was the article back in May about, and there were some great quotes in there about how your training, how deep your training goes into the community. About, and it's just providing skills to people who are able to use them on a moment's notice. And there was the one description of the young girl who saved her dog from choking.
Yes.
After learning the skills in a CPR class, which as a 4-hour, you mentioned the expense of a CPR class, which you provide for free and are able to change lives, touch lives. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Touching lives and making certain that people are able to that people are better equipped to be resilient, and to live comfortably and safely inside our community. So bravo, thank you so much. And thank you to the volunteers, the time that you put in and the driving this effort forward. There's we have a website that you're featured on, and it goes into the national program and how you're following the national program. So, Chair Trigger, there's a lot happening there, a lot to listen to, and I think as the years move forward, we'll hear more and more from you about the effectiveness and the depth you're reaching into the community with the volunteers. So it's pretty remarkable. I sit here in awe of the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Well, thank you. I think we first met during COVID at a vaccine clinic at ATA,
So,
Sarah,
yes.
you and I, right? And we were talking about all the incredible volunteer power that was driving the success of our clinics. So this is really exciting. Congratulations on 1 year. I can't wait for the 3-year or the 5-year because I'm sure, right, it's going to be one of those cumulative compounding success stories. It won't just be adding the 114 or whatever each year. It'll compound, because I think there's something really important about, as Commissioner Buck said, volunteers could be volunteering on anything or doing anything with their time, but creating a program creates sort of an identity that people say, I am a member of this volunteer corps, and that's really different and really efficient as far as keeping people engaged and ready to activate versus sort of one-offs and having to start over each emergency with finding people and bringing them in. So I'm very excited to see how this program grows and how many more people we engage, both sort of lay people that get trained to do things they didn't already know and professionals who can bring their professional skills and expertise, or professionals in one area who want to do something different during their volunteer time than what they do as professionals. And there's a place for all of that. I know other people here remember Liz Runte, who was the volunteer manager at United Way for a long, long time. When we did Project Homeless Connect, you might remember her, Commissioner Farr. She was there, and she taught me the greatest saying about volunteerism, which is volunteer is a pay scale, not a job description. Because people have in their minds like, oh, we use volunteers for things like envelope stuffing. Well, you do, but it might be a physician stuffing envelopes because they've been, right? Or it might be a physician doing medical care on a volunteer basis, right? So it really, I just see this as a program where there's sort of room for everybody. And it's just going to really benefit the community. So thank you.
Thank you. That's actually one of the reasons that we chose to call ourselves Public Health Reserve Corps, in addition to being located within public health, is just trying to show that we really almost need more non-medical volunteers than we do medical volunteers, which was a huge lesson from COVID. You need people to be a site lead, organize, liaise, logistics, traffic control, bring patients through. And one of the, there have been a lot of challenges in building a brand new program, but I would say one of the benefits that I have seen for us is that we also get the opportunity to be really volunteer led. And so, the farm, for example, the presentation that we did at the farm was one of our volunteers works there and is like, we really need to work with this community. And so we really, Kaya and I really see ourselves as the goal is to have volunteers be engaged, interested, and feel that they're our leaders and we are here to support them. And so if they have an interest in doing an activity in a certain population or a certain location, we're really there to support that. Thank you, Chair.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Any concluding remarks from staff from Public Health?
No, I think that actually wraps us up for today. So thank you.
Great.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I will adjourn the joint meeting of the Commissioners and the Board of Health and reconvene the regular meeting of Board of Commissioners. Welcome our county administrator to the table. We sort of suspended county administration announcements, Mr. Mokreisi, because we weren't sure if there was anything you wanted to share with the board this morning for county administration announcements.
I don't have anything.
Okay, great. Then we'll move into our next item, item 8, which is Public Works. And we have two exciting programs and projects to hear from. The first is a report on the Lane County Parks Local Option Levy with an update on activities from our Parks Division Manager, Brett Henry, and Jody Lowe, our Parks Volunteer and Marketing Coordinator. Good morning. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chair. Yeah, with me is Jody Lowe. As you had mentioned, she's the Lane County Parks Marketing and Volunteer Coordinator. So we're here again. This is our second presentation, giving you guys an update on the Parks Local Option Levy. So she's getting the presentation up.
Cameron to the
Here comes Cameron.
Share screen. Apologize for that. We got to figure it out.
Great.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. We are giving you an update on the local option levy. And today we're going to talk about the levy objectives, the budget and project categories. We're going to give an overview of completed projects, talk about progress in project, pardon me, too many P's, projects in progress, and then future projects on the horizon. So our levy objectives include completing an ADA assessment and transition plan, addressing immediate safety concerns, park security, waterway access projects, restrooms, trails, signage, and paving. Our levy budget categories include, we have $13.9 million to improve park facilities, trails, and accessibility, which is the orange category, almost the largest category up there. Yes, the largest category up there, which encompasses 44% of the budget. The next category, which is the green category, is $11.5 million to keep our parks clean, green, safe, and open. The next category in dark gray is $4.5 million for special projects. And the final category is $1.5 million in conservation and education. That's that small blue category of 5%. And from here, I'm going to hand it off to Brett Henry. Thank you.
Yeah, so the fun part, all the projects we've been doing. So starting with some completed projects. So the funding wasn't available until the beginning of the year. So that's when we started working on these projects. And as Jody had said, we have a number of objectives that we want to meet. And so looking at water access is really important for us since almost 90% of our parks are adjacent to water bodies. So the picture you see there on the slide is from Richardson Park. That's the courtesy dock that was finished just recently by our staff. And, seeing things in action like that are really, really inspiring, and so we're already making some improvements at our parks, and it's really incredible. So with this slide, you'll see some more floating docks, and I promise you it won't be all docks, but we really wanted to focus on waterway access. And you can see this is the two marinas here on the left, is a before and after picture from Orchard Point Marina. And on the right, that's from Richardson Marina over by where the public boat ramp is. So, they were working out there in the rain. I went out there one day with my son during the Take Your Child to Work day. And it was really, I think, interesting for him to go out there and just to see how windy it was out on the lake in Fern Ridge. So, as you can see here, we have the districts, and so I wanted to make sure that you guys understood, which parks are in which districts and which projects are in the way, are coming up. But, I think it's important also to note that in the board packet, there's a small error with Howard Buford Park, and I know that the commissioner districts have changed over time. So instead of district, I think 3 and 5, it's 2 and 5. So just note that. But moving forward, so we've been just working on what you would think would be small things like signage. And so this is a kiosk here from the Crilly Nature Trail over at Armitage. And you see how our staff's been busy fixing that one as well. And so they fixed the roof and all the support structures on that. And so Camp Lane is one of those parks that I think has a ton of potential, and it's located about halfway between Eugene and Florence off of Highway 126. And there's a historic building there called the Camp Lane Lodge, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places. And so, working with the SHPO's office, we've replaced that roof there, and we also replaced the lighting, and so we want to make that a more, friendly visiting space as well as a space for special events. And so I think that really makes it shine. And, and I think that these little things that we're doing may not seem like a lot, but I really wanted to focus on these types of projects that people would notice right away and see the benefit and know that we have a lot of long-term projects that are going to take multiple years to complete. If you've been to Howard Buford Park lately, you might have noticed the security cameras that are up. So we've added 3 new cameras, and this is the park where we have the most break-ins. And so I think it was really imperative that we focused on this area first. We're also working on getting a security contract so that we have somebody that's going to be on call, especially during the weekends, going to be mainly at the parks in the valley, but also be able to kind of expand outside the valley. So having that extra service, I think, will make folks feel a lot more secure out there. So there's one camera there at the entrance. That way we can, catch everybody coming in and out through that main entrance. And then we also have 2 other cameras, and they're in the south lot or the main lot by the Arboretum. So I wanted to kind of point out Deerhorn Park. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that little hidden gem. So it's actually located there on the McKenzie corridor. So it's right there on the McKenzie River, and there's excellent access to the water. And that was one of those parks that, a lot of people actually go to. It's kind of surprising. You know, I'll usually see several people out there, you know, locally, but also it's a popular, you know, place for fishing and drift boats and whatnot. But one thing I wanted you to notice is that I did not ignore pickleball, and you know, and I know it's a running joke every time we talk about it, but you know, we were really flooded with those public meetings and people wanting pickleball. So this is our first pickleball court. We converted it from what was an old basketball court, and so now it's kind of a multifunctional space there where we have the basketball goals where people can still play basketball, but it's got the extra net up there. So just a one court, but it's our start. So there are a lot of projects that are kind of going on right now. The picture you see there is the entrance to Armitage Park, and I'll be talking quite a bit about Armitage. So again, you know, it's one of our most visited parks, but you know, we can make some improvements, we think, right away there at the entrance. And I can remember back when I had my interview and I wanted to try to hit all the parks, but of course I didn't have the time. I didn't allow enough time. But I went over to Armitage and I was really confused when I drove in because I didn't know whether to go straight or to go right. You know, the signage wasn't totally clear. But also, you know, it just was kind of strange that you have to go right, you know, and go through the kind of the dog area. So we've been working with an engineer and a landscape architect, and we've come up with some 80% designs there. And so what you see is the entrance, and so we wanted to make sure that people could, you know, so it was really clear whenever you drove into the park that it was a two-way road where you could just come in, but then you still had the option of turning off to the right there into the dog park. And then also what we added, you know, is thinking about the dog park improvements. You want to make sure that, you know, we add some features to that dog park area. It's one of our most popular spots. So we're looking at 2 14 by 14 covered pavilions. And so there's a dog park area for kind of the smaller dogs or the timid dogs, and then there's one for the larger dogs. So we'll have one in each. And we actually had a donation that went towards the smaller dog park as well, but the rest of it's going to be supplemented with levy funds. So, and then also I want you to note on this, you can see that, you know, there should be better accessibility. You look at the kind of approaches, the entrances, the pathways, you know, those will be paved. And then we'll also have kind of, you know, at the entrance to the parks as well, or to the, you know, dog parks, an area where people can kind of maneuver and so forth if they have wheelchairs. So all of this should be ADA accessible when it's complete. And we expect this to all be finished summer of next year. That's the plan right now. So you'll see here, you know, another running theme is accessibility. We think it's a really good opportunity to kind of move on into the 21st century with a lot of our parks that were built some 40, 50 years ago and are not very accessible, especially there's a lot of physical limitations. So Cedar Beach Park is over in Florence, and it's there's access to the beach. You can see through the trail. It's kind of a little shaded there, but that's the pathway that goes to the beach. And so we were approached at the beginning of the year, around February or so, from two organizations, Travel Lane County and David's Share. And so David's Share is a nonprofit that's just really started in the past couple of years, and they have developed these motorized wheelchairs that have actually tracks on them. So they're almost like all-terrain to an extent, you know, wheelchairs where they can actually go on surfaces like, you know, sand or loose gravel. And that pathway is a nice one, and it's pretty wide, but if you look at the surfacing, it has really loose gravel and then it turns into sand. So, you know, we thought that would be a good place for it. So currently we do have one David's Share that is available to the public for reservation for like a 2-hour period. And so that's been really popular since it launched off earlier this year. And another thing, it's kind of a side, it's not part of the levy, but we recently received a grant for what are called Moby mats. And so we're going to add Moby mats to this site. And so what that will allow us to do is to put down these mats that have a more stable surface for, folks who have, are using wheelchairs or strollers and things like that. So that way they can get out there to the beach as well. So really excited about those two projects. So moving on, Howard Buford Park, we have been working for a while to try to provide better access to the river there. And you can see, the maps aren't super clear, but there are kind of two sections of the Willamette River. There's the Coast Fork and the Middle Fork. And the Coast Fork River kind of passes right there at the Arboretum. And we found a really good location to have a trail that folks were kind of already using to get down to the water, but we wanted to improve it even better. And so we've been working with a local firm called Cameron McCarthy. And at this point, we have 70% design. And so we're going through permitting. And, it will be a bit of a challenge for the permitting, but we do think it's possible after talking with the Oregon State Marine Board. So we also received, a grant through the Marine Board, which augments this funding. And so this project is probably a couple years away, but once it's complete, it will be the first fully handicap accessible site to the Willamette River. And we think that's going to be really important. So hopefully it doesn't draw too many people, because actually the reason why we're looking for another site is a lot of folks park where they're not supposed to be parking, right there at the entrance, and kind of clog that entrance. And so whenever they're coming in there, they're just trying to get under the bridge where the water is, and it can be quite a problem. So we wanted to kind of divert those people away from that. So that was the reason why we were looking at it. So you'll see there, that picture on the right, there's going to be a platform and the ability for someone who's in a wheelchair to transfer into a canoe or a kayak. So that'll be a nice feature. Sticking with this park, we've been working with Arboretum for a while to improve the accessibility of the trails. And so there's a standard called universal access. And so that's not complete ADA accessibility, but it's quite an improvement over what was there before. So, looking at removing some physical barriers, the slope, the width of the trail, and the surfacing, some improvements have been made over there at the Arboretum. So now we're working with the Friends of Buford Park. The Friends have an area of the park that's under lease, and it's kind of over by the North Bottomlands, or the North parking lot. And what we want to do is kind of replicate that in the northern part of the park, where there are two longer loops that are universal access. And so I've been working right now with the Friends and kind of planning that. We think it's going to be, probably a year or so away before we get there, but we're going to devote some funds from the levy towards that. And once it's all finished, we'll have a map that we share with the public online, but also certainly, at the park as well, where people can go and see, these are some trails that I can actually access and see some features of the park. So we're really excited about that project. And kind of staying on this theme of access, I've been working with Kristen Lee and Molly, and so they're with Lane County, and I think they work for Steve. But they approached me because they knew that we were looking at accessibility, and actually Molly, I think, was a 520 at the time, went out to a number of our parks and took a look at them for, how accessible are they? Are they meeting some of the ADA requirements? And so that report's not complete yet, but when it's finished, I'll share that with you, as well as taking it another step or two further, where we want to do a full ADA assessment and transition plan. The ADA assessment will allow us to look at our park infrastructure and see where the deficiencies are. And then a transition plan will give us kind of a roadmap on how we're going to tackle all those deficiencies over time. So I do want to highlight a couple of future projects to look forward to, and this is beginning really next year through the end of the levy period, which is in 2028. The picture you see there is actually of my parents, and they was when they came down from Oklahoma to visit me. We went to Pavilion Park in the city of Coburg. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it's an interesting park, and there are some features that I thought were really kind of unique. And so this is just a bike kiosk, and you would think it's not much, but you go in there and you see a lot of things that would really be helpful over at Armitage Park. So there's a way you can pump your bike, there's a way that you can get some water, there's an area that has a map that shows where all the local bike trails are. So really kind of a neat little space. So I took some pictures. So, with Armitage Park, kind of talking more about that entrance that we're really working on. This is a better picture here that shows the entrance and what it will look like in the future, having a two-way and then a way that you can go off to the right and park for the dog area, but also adding this kind of spur off to the west or off to the left there, where we could potentially add another 7 full hookup RV sites. We know that's really needed right now. I get a lot of folks who are unable to find reservations there, and so what we'll do is we'll go back to the public before we add in the additional RV sites. There's still some more engagement that we want to do beforehand, and so just wanted to show you that. And so you say, how can you pack all that into such a small space? And so you can see there, the landscape architect put in some vegetative screens there that kind of shield that, so it separates those two areas. So we're getting towards the end. So I want to just give a quick shout out to the Engineering and Construction Division within Public Works. They were extremely helpful in working with us for some assessments of our parking areas and our roads and our parks. And so I gave them kind of a tier 1 list, and so they've already gone through that tier 1 list and gave us some recommendations. So you see here, they looked at 8 parks and 11 locations within those 8 parks. And so we're expecting a full reconstruction at several parks. The Armitage Day Use, if you've ever been out there, it's not in great shape. Hendricks Bridge, that day use, of course, the North Jetty and the monster pothole. And then, we're also looking at even other improvements like inlays, slurry seals, pothole repairs, and curb repairs at those other locations as well. And last but certainly not least, conservation and stewardship. There are a number of parks that we have that have natural areas, and now that we have some funding to dedicate towards it, we look forward to really improving the wildlife habitat and the sustainability of these parks. So you might just think about Howard Buford Park, but Vickery Park and Kinney Park. So there are a lot of these other parks that have some real natural area value that we're looking at. And so we're trying to remove some of the invasive vegetation, but we're also really focusing on ecological prescribed burns. And so we're seeing the value of that. We have actually some before and after pictures, and I was going to bring in Ed Alberson at some point. He's our natural area specialist, and he could be like a professional photographer. He's amazing, but he has a knack for just looking at locations and taking spot photographs before and after and seeing the effect. And so we now can dedicate more funding towards these prescribed burns, and I think really enhance the habitat at a lot of our parks. And of course, we want to focus on stabilizing the shorelines. As I said earlier, about 90% of our parks are adjacent to water bodies. And then lastly, sustainability, some transportation options. Currently, we have one electric vehicle charging station over at Howard Buford Park in the Arboretum lot, and we have some funding available to add additional infrastructure. So we'll have 2 more meetings here this year, one in August and one in November. In August, we'll come back with the equity survey results. I know I've been promising that a while, but Latifa and I wanted to delve into that a little bit more. We wanted to look at lived experiences, and we've been partnering with the data and analytics, and they've used they're called Power BI, which is a kind of a software program that really allows us to dig into that data. So we should have a report for you available in the fall. And then in November, we're going to unveil our communications plan. So obviously it's important to let the public know what we're doing and get some feedback. How are we doing, along the way? And then the other one I want to mention is we will be doing an annual report. So we'll get that out there to the public, and then we'll follow up with a presentation to the board. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time and the support through all these years, and we're here for questions.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you. We do have just a few minutes before we move to our next item, because we do have executive session this morning. Are there questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Trigger, and thank you, Jody and Brett, for the presentation. I love your photos of the park. I was very disappointed. The package that we got did not show the picture of the part of the parks that I do frequent more often, but you had it up on the screen, and that is the courtesy dock at Armitage. It is a masterpiece, and my wife and I are out there at least once a week on the very end of the dock taking photos, just enjoying it. That really epitomizes all of the work they've done on all of the parks, and there is a lot of attention on that because a lot of people do use it. And with the lake being full, with Fern Ridge being full right now, so many people are using the lake. But Chair, I did want to mention West Lake, Hasita Beach, Harborview, Armitage, Orchard Point, Richardson, Zumwalt, Jenny B. Harris Wayside, Archie Knowles, Hendricks Bridge, Howard Buford, and North Jetty Beach. What do they all have in common? Those are parks that Debbie and I have visited in the last 2 weeks. So we, the public loves our parks, and they love them even more as we move deeply into them. There is a wonderful pond at North Jetty Beach. We call it the Patrick Bradshaw Pond. It's actually in the middle of the parking lot. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, people call it some other things as well.
Well, it depends if you drive through it accidentally and you think it's shallow and it's not, But the work that's being done there, since we acquired it, we do acquire parks from other agencies frequently, including Camp Lane, which was originally a CCC camp. Armitage came from the state. Archie Knowles came from the state. The North Jetty Beach came from the state. So acquiring parks, even in the times of tough times budgetarily, we're doing a very good job of making certain that we do take care of parks.
Yeah, I do want to mention that I've kind of had the philosophy not to take on new parks, but the North Jetty was kind of a no-brainer.
It was.
Because, it's one of the really 2 or 3 access points to the beach. Not only that, but we want to be able to make some major improvements like the parking lot repair and some other things like a boardwalk to the beach, and then be able to charge some parking there. And then that money will go back into the maintenance of that site.
And it's heavily used. It's a beautiful park, and it connects Hasita Beach. The long beach in between the North Jetty and Hasita Beach becomes our beach, becomes a Lane County beach, and is underutilized, and it's just a stellar place. But one more thing I would like to mention is that, once again, you've done a great job. Pickleball is a very serious business. Very, very serious. Just ask the many people who are beginning to play pickleball. And when a grandfather can play pickleball with an 8-year-old grandchild and have a competitive game, it's a sport that really appeals to everybody. And not just the single courts, but the larger facilities that the county has been a part of and will continue to be a part of. One quick question. Part of the levy was identified as a partnership with LCSO, Lane County Sheriff's Office. And you don't need to go into much detail on that, but I presume that we are maximizing that.
Yes, we are. Yeah, so they have a work crew program. And so, and I know that they haven't always, charged for its use, but we want to start, giving them some revenue for that. And so we're starting there. We tried to work with them, but we couldn't just make it work out to have a deputy go out. And so that was the original plan. And so we kind of switched gears, and now we're looking at having some private security out there. But yeah, certainly a strong partnership with the
And I can attest to the fact that the Veneta office of the Sheriff's Department. We had an unfortunate incident in one of our parks, and Veneta responded very, very quickly, beyond the limits of their district. So bravo on everything you've done. I wish I could say more, Chair. I wish we had like half an hour to talk about this, but everybody enjoy Lane County Parks because they really are a gem. Thank you.
Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to publicly appreciate you taking on tours of the parks recently. I was able to go through Howard Buford and Armitage, and I was actually recently at Deerhorn. But those are going to be really critical because they're all going to be before and afters, basically. So being able to walk the parks and see where they're at now, review the plans with you, and then in a couple of years be able to see the results later is really impactful for me. So I really appreciate that. And even if the parks aren't in necessarily my district or anybody else's district, I really like going to the parks and seeing those before and afters. So please continue to include me. I'm sure other commissioners would be very interested as well. And hopefully the public will do the same. I know our regulars probably will already get it, but for those that may only join a parks or certain parks once in a while, this will be a good way to see how the levy is actually making a difference in our communities. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Seneca.
Yes, thanks, Brett. Always appreciate your presentations because, as it's been stated, we all love our parks, and you're doing a great job, and I love your proactive approach to this levy. It took a lot of work to get here, and you're continuing to push on that hard work. So I appreciate it, and I think your line out of the projects, you can just tell how much care and detail has gone into this whole program. So thank you guys for all the hard work.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, and I think I wouldn't be able to do this without wonderful staff like Jody and others. Our field staff, has just labored for so many years, and now being able to add about another 10 FTE there, full-time employees, I think has really bolstered their staff and the morale, and I like hearing those things. I'll pass it along.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I know we're short of time, but I want to echo the thanks for the tour and all the visions that you provided. I think what's kind of critical, when I was at Deerhorn Park just recently and saw the new pickleball court, I thought, wow, this is like unmarred, freshly painted, and I felt compelled, even though I didn't have my pickleball stuff, I felt compelled to clear the court off of the branches that had fell on it so the next guy would enjoy a pickleball experience. So I say that because I think the improvement of the parks also people get on the vision of taking care of them better themselves. So that's why I mentioned that. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies, I misspoke. The exec is this afternoon, not this morning. So for our next item, we do have plenty of time. Or we can do a second round on parks. But we will hear back from you in August and in November. So thank you for that. I'm very excited to hear the report back on the equity survey, because really that's the voice of users. I mean, you have five parks users and our families here, and we're all fans, but it's going to be really great to hear what the general public's experience of our parks is and how we can do better. But phenomenal work. Really proud of the voters for recognizing the importance of parks and wanting them to be even better. So thank you for the work and the presentation today.
Just one more sentence.
Commissioner Farr, yeah.
30 seconds. Our campgrounds are recognized as the finest campgrounds in the region. It's hard to get into them because they're so popular. And if we have an opportunity to expand them in the future, that's a wonderful, potentially revenue generating, I don't know. But both our marinas and our campgrounds are just highly used, highly regarded.
Well used and well worn.
Yeah, in fact.
I forgot, I do have a quick question. I used like All Trails, there's various apps and our parks trails are part of those. Is there anything we have to do proactively to update them as we make more and more of the trails and parking lots and water access points ADA accessible?
That's a really good point. Yeah, so that's a good platform to get that information out to the public. So I'll take a note of that, yeah.
Great, thank you. All right. Great. Thank you very much. Our next item is also a Public Works item and also a discussion not an action item. And I will welcome to the table our Director of Public Works, Dan Hurley, and our Lane Event Center Manager and Fair Manager, Corey Buller, and we're going to talk about the matter of developing a scope of work for community engagement services for visioning the future of the Lane Event Center. Good morning, welcome, both of you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. Yes, so I'm going to actually let Corey take this. We've been working on a scope of work for engaging a consultant to help lead the community engagement, and wanted to get your feedback on that, as well as the list of members for an advisory committee on this work. So, what do you want to take, Corey?
Perfect. Well, thank you, Chair, Commissioners, for this opportunity to come back and discuss something that's obviously a passion of mine and something that I'm very excited to begin working on again, and that's the future of the fairgrounds and the facilities that we have out there and the opportunities that we provide to our community. So just briefly, since 2017, we have been back several times through different processes of our master plan, previous boards, as well as with this board. Earlier this year, we came back on March 6th and got direction from you guys to restart that process with more of a visionary and a high-level exploratory kind of ideas, and come back with a way to see that through to the end this time. So again, we wanted to get buy-in from the get-go from everybody involved, as well as the community and stakeholders, and come back to you guys with something that we felt we could move forward and actually get something completed this time. So your packet does contain some references to some of those previous materials, but we really wanted to focus now on this new process. It's going to be inclusive. It's going to focus on that public engagement, that visionary component, have some work that's driven by a work group of stakeholders. So we're back, as Dan mentioned, with the draft RFP for a consultant to help move this forward, and we're looking for your guys' input and kind of guidance as we get this thing kicked off. So in your packet, we broke out some of the tasks. We've listed some of the deliverables. And I want to quickly go through those so that we can just hit them at a high level. Essentially, tasks will be defined or could be defined differently, and some will overlap throughout this process. But what we're thinking is basically a project initiation. This will encompass reviewing that past material, some of those past deliverables, refining that scope of work, develop a schedule, develop the visioning work group that Dan mentioned. We'll have an internal project team and meet with those and others to plan the rest of that process. So that's well-defined at the start. We'll move on to project development. So that will include a project website, community survey tools, developing that community engagement plan, set up a open house meeting, stakeholder meetings, various different ways to engage. We'll move on through that community engagement, conducting those meetings, gathering feedback from clients, stakeholders, and the public. Once we get some initial feedback, we'll start refining that. So we'll conduct and present back to this commission, as well as the Fair Board, some of those updates, concepts, some of the feedback that we received. Then we'll go back out for some additional community engagement, refine some of those concepts and ideas, and bring them back again. And then finally, we'll compile and develop a summary report and really how to move this thing to those next steps to completion and how we're going to get there. So some of the deliverables we called out, I'll just go through them really quickly. Community engagement plan, a project website, community survey, meeting summaries, design concepts, and then that final visioning and planning goals report. Obviously, there could be more to it than that, but that's a minimum of what we're looking for with the help of the consultant. We do intend to have an internal project team. I would envision myself, Dan Hurley, various other county staff, representation from legal, capital, whenever is needed, we'll be bringing county staff in. But we're also recommending an outside group to be part of that visioning work group, and that will represent the public and the stakeholders as well. So we put some suggestions out for you. Obviously, commissioner representation, we would love to have Commissioner Trigger. We're in her district, but any additional that you guys feel is appropriate. one or two Fair Board members. We'd love to have representation from the Neighborhood Association or our neighbors, Travel Lane County, Rink Exchange, some of our major clients. So that could include the Logging Conference, the Home and Garden Shows, the Saturday Market, the Piccadillys, things like that. And various community stakeholders. So we've got Webfoot Volleyball, Kids Sports, Eugene Chamber of Commerce, City of Eugene, 4-H FFA entities, things like that, that we would like to see some representation from. So I'm going to keep it fairly short. Again, this is just an RFP for a consultant to get us kicked off, but we do want your feedback and your comments and ideas and suggestions. So with that, I'll open it up.
To the board. Commissioner Farr.
Sure, I'll start. Very, very short. Your quote is something I'm very, very passionate about, the future of our fairgrounds, and you also applauded our long-term plans from the past, and you quote, said we will see it through to the end this time. I'm excited about that, because we've had a number of studies and we've gone certain directions, and what happens is the public has input from time to time that changes the way we look at things. There was a little bit of input that we've had recently about a sports facility that we were considering there that changed both the timing and the direction that your work has gone. It happens, the public has input. That's a part of the public process, is the public will have input, even on plans that are laid out by the Fairgrounds Advisory Committee that provided the long-term plan. So I'm looking forward to moving forward. In fact, it's good to be looking at it from today as opposed to looking at it from 5 years ago, because today we have a different view. Things have changed based upon public input, and really looking at that very valuable piece of property that's right in the middle of our community, and what is the greatest value for it. You mentioned that it is in Commissioner Krieger's district. It is actually in all of our districts. We're all Lane County. It's the heart of Lane County. This is the center of what we do. One of the most outwardly facing elements of Lane County is our Fairgrounds and Event Center. Wonderful work that you have done, and I'm excited. I'm not going to say very much about it right now because I'm looking forward to your process as it moves forward. But I will say this: you mentioned a number of groups who'd like to participate, the Fair Board, etc. I'm going to add the Sheriff's Posse. When I take our kids to when I took our kids and our grandkids to the fair, one of the first things that really impresses them is the Sheriff's Posse on horseback. It really is an integral part of our fair. The work that they do, not just parking cars, but being there as emissaries, as advocates, as the face of Lane County, a very positive face of Lane County. I applaud them, and I hope you continue to work with them very closely, not just on the work that they do, but on all of the other things that they can do to promote our fairgrounds, our event center, and the things that happen there in the summer and all year round. Thank you.
Commissioner Senega.
Yes, I'd like to piggyback on that a little bit. You did mention bringing 4-H into it, and I'll be really interested to hear what their input is, because I know one of their concerns with our current fairgrounds and the setup is the lack of events they're allowed to have. So their input with obviously looking at solutions, I think that's going to have a huge impact on our rural community's excitement about this project. So thanks for being here, and I look forward to these conversations.
Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate getting a move on the scope of work. I have a couple of questions and personal suggestions. When it comes to the community engagement part, I feel pretty heavy on the community engagement part. And I saw that there were up to 6 different community engagement sessions. My concern with 6 is that if you're going to do them in rural communities as well, that may not be enough to hit all the communities that might want to give input. So personally, I would leave that a little more open-ended, depending on how many different areas you're going to seek input from, and I would hope that it would be the entirety of the county in various different ways, because we know our rural communities will come as well. So that was my first initial impression of just the community engagement part. The other part is the envisioning work group. And we've had one suggestion already to add somebody, but I'm really looking through it through an equity lens, and I didn't see minority groups like the NAACP or La Plaza or any other groups that we know that would need representation, and how do they engage with the Lane County Events Center? How can we include them in those conversations? So I'm not sure if we need to spell out our equity lens to the consultant and how we expect, them to be able to view and return information to us in the form of a report that ensures that that equity lens is utilized through the process. Thank you, Chair.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, great comments by my colleagues. You guys are writing heartily, I can see, so I support all of what has been said. I think the thing that I kind of bring out here is the proposed people involved. Obviously, we each have some suggestions of what I might maybe see Hockey Oregon involved in that too. They're not on the list. I think hockey is probably a great thing that the Lane County Fair could be doing in the future. But also, in light of suggesting them, is that I think the public needs to know too, as we look at this as a long-term, and I mean, this is a long-term vision for the fairgrounds. This could be 20, 30 years down the road. So it's important that we look at the hard questions as well. Is the questions of using that property at its highest and best use to stay there? Is the money that we're going to invest in fixing what's there and redoing and trying to make concessions for the 4-H people with all the things we have challenges there, is that the right place to be? So I'd really look to it, a hard look at that just from a business perspective. And Corey, you and I have talked about that, so that's nothing new. Also to just maybe to bring Eugene City to the table, and I say this with some degree of caution because everybody wants the best thing done. But I think, just from a developer point of view, if there's a win-win situation here for the county to do something different and the city of Eugene to have a major win in their cap, I think that's maybe something that I would like to look at too. All inclusive of what my colleagues have said too. There's a lot of great suggestions here, and I think going forward as determined as possible, not as quickly as possible. I'd like to see things move a little faster, but that's just me. I know there's a process, and we'll stick with that, but I think now we're determined. I think now we've got a good solid vision, and I think we've got enough things behind us now that we have a real clearer idea of where we want to go. So I'm fully supportive of what you're going to do, and I'm behind you all the way.
Thank you. Appreciate all the comments that have gone before. I think a lot of mine are really less about the RFP, which I think looks pretty solid and will more be in the interviewing respondents to the RFP, but I'll voice them now since we're having the item and people are maybe having it top of mind now, and it won't be as open to the public at that time. But I think one of the greatest challenges of this process is going to be how we set expectations about what do we do with input, because we all know, we've all experienced community saying, well, why did you ask for my input if you weren't going to take it? And so it doesn't mean we didn't take it into consideration or under advisement. So somehow getting at the experience of any respondent in how they set expectations of what is community input for and how it will be used, and projects that they've worked on that both have a finite timeline. We're all up here saying, yay to framing this as it will have an endpoint and we will start making decisions based on it, but also maintaining that dynamism, because as Commissioner Farr pointed out, there's been some recent conversation over the last couple of years about different uses for that property around sports facilities, but we've also, as a county, seen a need for that property as part of our emergency response in the last 5 years, like we never had before that in the decades and decades of owning that property. And the value and importance of having a campus that size that we could shelter large animals during wildfire evacuation, run mass vaccination clinics during a pandemic, shelter people during historic heat domes and cold events. So that emergency management component is something we didn't fully understand 5 years ago the way we do because of what's happened the last 5 years. And because it helps us deliver on a mandated service that we provide as the county to have that place. And so, yeah, what that means to have a finite, an endpoint that we'll start making decisions when we're going to be continually learning new things about what we need and what the community needs and how that space meets those needs. And so the last thing I would say toward that end is, in whatever way this consultant can solicit input from the community, from all the partners within the organization in the community, that separates the value of the programming from the location, as well as why is that programming in that location something you value or don't think we need, right? So just taking the obvious, the fair. There might be lots of people who would hate to see there not be a county fair, but don't think it needs to be there. There might be a lot of people that think that is the best place for a fair. Those are different questions. I see you nodding, so I think you get what I'm getting at. And again, those are not things to incorporate in the RFP. I think the documents you provided look fine. I appreciate Commissioner Buck specifically calling out community partners that help get at the equity goals, but I do see in your response criteria, you ask the potential consultant to talk about how they have worked with those key tenants in the past, so thank you for that. So yeah, I think at this stage of things, you've given us what we need. It seems like everybody's feeling good about what's in front of us, and the real work will start in evaluating proposals that come in. Hopefully we will get enough of them to really have some real different proposals to be comparing and looking at. Commissioner Farr.
Chair Trigger, just to tag along with everything, we go to the county fair every year, and every year it feels like it gets better. And this last year, we took the entire family and really had one of the finest experiences that we've ever had at any county fair, including the heralded Tillamook County Fair. But that being said, the line to get tickets for rides is stupidly long, uncomfortable, and hot. Something's got to be done about that.
Yeah, it's one of the things we're working on.
Okay.
Get to the yo-yo quicker.
Yeah, so I think you have what you need, and I think this sort of piece about what does an endpoint look like. I mean, that's when we start making decisions to do or not do a thing, or seek resources or not seek resources for one of the. That's where it'll really
I appreciate the feedback and all the comments, and yes, I think those will all be key components when we actually do have a consultant online to help define some of those details and some of those timelines. But we do have to get started, and so this was the first step. Appreciate everybody's feedback. We'll obviously get to work on it very soon. There's a shameless plug, though, that I will be slightly busy in the month of July with the county fairs, the 24th to the 28th, but with Dan's help, we'll still get this thing cranking and get it out and start working on it. So,
What are those dates again?
July 24 to 28. So, yeah. All the information you need is at thefair.com.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great. That brings us to the end of our business for the morning, unless there's anything else. Not seeing any from here, from the administrator. And so with that, we are recessed until 1:30, at which time we will reconvene in the Board of County Commissioners conference room for a work session and our afternoon executive sessions. We are in recess till 1:30.